Hi, Mai.
Hello. Oh, hi. Hi, Dr. Teo. You can hear me
Yeah,
clearly?
yeah, clear.
Okay.
We'll just wait for people to sign in.
Yeah, sure. How are you today, Dr. Teo?
Yeah, all right. Same old. Supposed to be resting, but working today.
Yeah.
Let me see. Few people logging in.
Yeah.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yes. Good afternoon.
Sorry, still adjusting to these settings. Could we just start then?
Should we start? I think Shafika will join us later.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Assalamualaikum and hello, everyone. Good afternoon.
Hello.
Hello.
Shafika.
Hello.
Uh-huh.
Um, my name is Ida. I'm the MC for this week's session. Today's session is about communication for person with dementia, and apparently today is World Suicide Prevention Day. So the speaker will look into that later. And for the audience, if you have any questions, feel free to use the chat feature in this Instagram live. And the speakers are Dr. Teo and Miss Maizatul. I think you can start now.
So,
All right. Thank
thank
you.
Thank you.
In terms of communication, I guess we just wanted to share a few tips in terms of communicating with people with dementia, as well as I think we also need to think about communication just generally about dementia. Before we talk specifically about people with dementia, I think I just want to point out that the theme for World Dementia Month is no dementia. So it's something that we really need to get used to talking about. I think in Brunei, there's a bit of stigma attached to dementia. And I think some of the family members, when we say, oh, they have a dementia, and they're like, oh, don't say such things. That what a terrible thing to say. When actually we need to communicate and share in terms of what comes with this diagnosis. And so for some of these people, accepting that it is a condition is, I think, quite important. But let's focus first on talking about how to communicate with people with dementia. Actually, I think you've got some experience with caring for some of your relatives. Why
Yeah.
don't perhaps it'd be better to come from someone with hands-on experience rather than
Okay.
myself? Yeah.
Yeah, sure. All right. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, everyone. Selamat tengah hari dan salam sejahtera. I know what is communication actually. Communication is kita ni berkomunikasi kan, berhubung. It can be bercakap, it can be melalui verbal atau non-verbal, it can be sekadar gesture kita ni atau mimik muka saja atau tadi punya body language dan sebagainya. Okay. Now, when I refer back apanya Dr. Teo and in some of my training workshop juga, ada saya mengongsikan juga sedikit pengalaman saya dengan my auntie sendirilah But unfortunately, she passed away during Ramadan this year, Al-Fatihah. So I think I spoke about her with Dr. Teo and some of my friends juga di dalam Dementia Brunei. Okay. The thing is with my auntie ni, um, out of the blue, ia ni macam dari dimensinya tu totally 100% orang dah ada lagi dapat bercakap apa, cannot communicate, not even orang kan body gesture pun totally kosong The only way orang cara kita ni sebagai orang yang dilihatnya masih kita ni bercakap macam biasa saja sama ke dia. Kan kita ni tahu sebelum ni orang ada dementia ni is masih manusia biasa. Masih ia sepertinya dulunya. Yang kita ni dia boleh treat ke dia ni lain daripada yang lain lah. Walaupun ia ada demensia, ia masih seperti dulu. Ganya ia ada fungsi otaknya atau sel-sel otak tu yang sudah merosot atau rusaknya atau orang ataupun ada something lah tapi ia masih boleh mendengar apa yang kita ni cakap, ia masih faham, ia masih macam dulu. Ganya orang ia dah dapat respon ke tani seperti ia dulu. Pasal ia dah tahu macam mana akan memulahkan untuk membalas, menjawab ke tani ke atau merespon ke tani itu. Kadang-kadang kan rasanya kan mengampas ke tani pun ada indah dapat je tu Even reaksi muka pun kadang-kadang indah dapat. Paling-palingannya yang paling worst come to worst that I can see my auntie ni dulu kalau nya merespon, paling-paling yang melihat, menoleh, senyum saja cuma tu. And then kalau hari-harinya yang baik itu, alhamdulillah ia akan memegang tangan ketani. Waktu ketani megang tangannya, ia akan merespon. Kalau indah, ia indah akan merespon. Paling-paling yang melihat saja, tapi muka stone cold. Okay, tapi ketani sebagai yang normal lah ni, yang biasa, tani jangan ambil hati orang, jangan jauh hati pasal perkara ni Pasal durang lagi bagi kesian lahnya ketani. Rasa hatinya kan bercakap sama ketani sebelum ni macam dulu, indah dapatkan bertanya kabar. Again, as I said, ada masa-masa yang baik atau kan kadang-kadang orang ada dementia ni sekajap ia akan ingat. Ia boleh sekajap boleh ingat bercakap. Lepas tu indah tiap totally batah dah bercakap. There are times ia akan bercakap bila tadi tanya apa kabar? Apa kabar kita tua ane? Kadang-kadang ia angguk-angguk saya. Ada masa ia akan menjawab baik. Ada masa lagi ia akan senyum-senyum, ia akan pegang-pegang tangan itu diusap-usapnya. Ada masa lagi ia macam kan melintok dirinya. Itu hanya orang Anita masa-masanya orang ketani gunakan sebaiknya. Orang while ketani masih sama ke dia. But then banyak lagi lah orang dalam pada tu lah. Okay, Dr. Teo, maybe can continue. Yeah.
I haven't got the hands-on experience with you, but I think one of the ways in which I think about it is people with dementia have limitations in function. So at the best days, sometimes it's a bit difficult to make sense of what's happening around them. Sometimes it's very difficult to understand. It's not just limited to people with dementia, actually. So for example, like, I'm sure we all have friends who talk quite quickly, and then they just like blah, blah, and they're like, what? I've missed it. And then sometimes, I'm sure you've encountered people are a bit upset with you. That why can't you hear what I'm telling you? I've said it 3 times already, when actually it's like, what? It takes a while for me to hear because you talk too quickly. And so one of the experiences I've had, which makes me think this is what a person with dementia might feel, is a few years ago, when I was younger, I went to Peru, and then all the languages in Spanish, I couldn't read a single sign. I've never been there. And then I was hungry, so I went to a few restaurants, and then none of them speak English. Well, they don't speak Malay, so I'm running out of options of what to say to talk to them or understand. And then so I wandered around. I'm like, let me find someone who can speak English. Let me find someone who can understand me. Then I walked around, no one understood. And then the food is all different also. I can't recognize any of it because they're all like Spanish type foods. Then guess where I decided to go to? McDonald's. The M, when I saw that big M, I was like, oh, thank goodness I can understand. Then I went there, and then all the menu also still in Spanish. I couldn't understand a thing. But I was so happy when there were pictures of things which are familiar. I'm like, yes, I want this one, this one, this one. And then they told me, okay, you want these things? And I said, yes. And then they told me some things, but I couldn't really understand. Then they told me how much to pay. And then I'm like, I can't understand. Then they put in the cash machine. And I was like, that's how much I have to pay. Then I didn't recognize the notes because I just arrived. It was day one. So I gave them the money, and then they gave me change. I was like, yes, I've wanted something. It was difficult to communicate. People didn't understand me, but there's ways to get around it. So I think I don't have dementia, but I have those sort of difficulties in trying to understand and communicate. And so for people with dementia, it is actually sort of similar. Some of them they have difficulty understanding language, especially if the language centers are affected. Some of them can't remember easily. So you tell them 3 or 4 times, they've just forgotten. There's no need to be upset with them. The ones with language difficulty, there's again no need to be upset with them. We have to try to overcome the limitations in communication, then hopefully the message goes through. Sometimes they get confused because of wrong signals coming in. I know some people have visual hallucinations. There is a video on YouTube which shows what a person with dementia describes what they see. So the visual center is affected. So, for example, now we're looking at a very clear screen. Sometimes the signal in part of the brain gets affected. So, for example, if this is my screen here, like bits get blocked. So you only get part of a signal because the visual center is affected, for example. So with these things in mind, it's actually quite challenging. And so most of the caregivers, when they're exhausted as well, they go, I can't communicate. When actually, we need to think of what the limitations are, try to overcome them to try and help the communication process go through. So I think things which are familiar are helpful for communication. Then you don't have to guess so much. So for example, like we go to work every day, let's say we have a routine already. If suddenly we have to, you are now moved from your current workplace, we will move you to finance department and expect you to work everything like you've used to things. No, it takes a bit more effort. And so similarly for people with dementia, if they're in an unfamiliar environment, they have to go, I have to think a bit more, I have to adjust, I have to be a bit more alert. Just like when we're traveling, we have to be more alert.
Yeah.
And that takes a lot of mental energy. So they will get tired more. And what happens when they're tired? It's the same like us. When we're tired, we can't think as much. And then we get a bit grumpier. And then there's people who are like, why aren't you listening to me? Why can't you understand? So I think communication, my main points are, you have to sort of try and understand the limitations of function. The second thing is you have to try and overcome those. I think those are the main points. And the other one is non-verbal communication. I think people take for granted because if I can't really see, if I can't hear, but I can read your lips, I can tell your how you're responding to me. If it's time to eat, you put the food there. It's like, what is this? And then it takes a while for me to understand. Then the extra signal helps. So I know sometimes people say things, but you know how we have, we can pick up sarcasm. So it's not just the words, there's the way in which we say things. So we can say nice things in a sarcastic voice, but we will still have the sense this person's not nice. They may say nice things, but it's just not the same, if that makes sense.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Just to add on that, Dr. Teo, yeah, when my aunt, during her earlier stage, right, she still managed to talk, and as you said just now, hallucination. She was saying about the late father was around, the late mother was around. She can see them around her, this and that. But when time goes by, her health is deteriorating. So again, when we try to communicate with her, we have to see eye to eye because she's aging. When you are aged, some of your pendengaran akan kurang, penglihatan pun akan kurang, and then all this pergerakan pun memang kurang lah. And then my aunt ni pun orang arah kerusi roda, but before that ia masih boleh berjalan. But then because of ia punya dementia tu, orang really advanced satu sudah totally ia beranikan berjalan. I think pasal ia takut. Bukan jua pasal, it's all about di utak ketani je tu. But then bila ia sudah orang di kerusi itu saja, ia akan communicate saja orang ketani yang masih tahu, yang masih orang ada gangguan arah fungsi utak ni, tadi mesti tahu macam kalau kanak-kanak kanak-kanak masih belum pandai bercakap kan, kalau nya damit. Cuma tu terjua mungkin tadi boleh orang menangani isu-isu macam mana ni kalau ada terjadilah habis kita punya perlindungan ke apa. Jangan dibiarkan tunggu ia meminta ke tani baru tani pedulikan. Tak. Artinya kalau pagi kalau ia bangun apa tu mungkin dibersihkan, Mungkin dibagi minum, mungkin dibagi makan. Breakfast apa? Dia payah ia meminta bercakap. Bagi yang advance, diorang indah akan bercakap. Diorang akan menunggu saja. Because diorang dah tahu cuma akan bercakap. Okay? Sama jua kalau kan ke toilet apa. Kalau yang advance itu totally indah dapat bercakap tu yang. Kan ke toilet kunya. Kan go to number 1, number 2 kah. So ketani tanya orang yang normal lah ni mesti memahami barang itu macam kalau sekiranya minta maaf kalau yang ketani punya orang tua tu yang ada memakai pampers satu dia akan dibiarkan sampai setengah hari sehari baru kan menukarkan pampers kan the logic tu. So kalau kanak-kanak tani dia jom biarkan takut berbadas sama je orang tua. So ini orang mesti tani cek alat 2 jam ke 3 jam mesti tani cek 2 jam lah. Pasal bladder diorang tu pun dia je dapat menahan kan tu. And then pasal eye contact kan dia juga. Kadang-kadang dia
Miss Maizatul, sorry
Yes.
to interrupt, but can we stop for a few minutes? Azan.
Oh yeah, okay, sure.
Sorry.
Thank you.
I think we can start again.
Thank you. Okay, there's some, maybe I stop dulu. There's sometimes my grandma are not aware that she have to use the toilet. Is there any specific explanation for that issue? Maybe this is more like scientific, but I can add to that maybe Yang tadi cerita sambungan tadi tu, I don't know whether grandma kita tu pakai pampers ke Indah atau ada dementia ke juga Indah. But my late auntie tu memang pakai pampers lah sudah But then my auntie yang menjaga benar-benar tu juga adinya, we really taking care of her. Like di treatnya macam itulah, alat-alat berapa jam ditukar apa. It's not that easy, tapi it will become your routine. After certain time itu menjadi rutin sudah. So tahu kan, kalau akan berjalan keluar pun jadi sanang juga. Ni orang apa, kemana akan berjalan, bawa saja. Ni orang macam biasa siangannya, ia dah bercakap lah, but still good. Time tani makan, bawa ikut makan, disuapi. Kalau kalau ia masih boleh mengikut mengikut cara tani makan itu, ia boleh buat sendiri. Kalau ia dapat, tani mesti bantulah That's why ia ikut macam mana ia punya stagesnya itulah orang yang ada dementia ya. So Dr. Teo, the question just now, like any specific explanation for that issue?
So in terms of if it is a dementia-specific issue, one of the contributing factors is sometimes they can't make sense of what's happening around them. It's the same thing, what's happening in them. They also can't understand what's happening. So what I mean by that is, it's like they're like, oh, I've got a full bladder, but I just don't feel right. I don't know what's wrong. And then rather than them saying they want to go to the toilet, they actually just somehow a bit more irritated, or they're a bit restless because they just can't make sense of it, is one of the common factors. So this is actually quite common for people with dementia, and we as caregivers, sometimes it's very difficult to make sense of what's happening when they're agitated. So I have to make sure, are they hungry? Are they thirsty? Have they got a stomach ache? We fed them something not right, so they're just a bit agitated because their tummy feels a bit funny, or they haven't moved for a while, they're achy, and then they can't communicate or tell us. So we can't really tell why they're upset. We just have to try and figure out and try and identify what their needs are. But in terms of specific advice, what you can do if someone is not aware about using the toilet is you try and make sure it's as easy as possible for people to remember. So for example, I don't know, we won't ask about everyone's bowel habits, but sometimes people like after breakfast must go to the toilet, or wake up must do a poo first, then have breakfast. Most people it'll be in the morning. So then even if they say, oh, I don't feel like it takes a while for the signal to go through, then they probably just need a bit more time in the toilet before things start again. If you put in a habit in place, then it also makes it a bit easier to remember. So for example, I don't know, most of us sit on the table, do work on the computers now. So when we feel like we need to, we'll just get up and go. We take it for granted. But what if we forget or something? We will get the sensation. For those who don't have these warnings to say, oh, my bladder's full, let's try and empty it out. What I suggest is regular toileting. So the ones which are easy to make it a habit is like breakfast time. After breakfast, they go for a poo. And then lunchtime, maybe after lunchtime, they've eaten already. They must try and drink as much as possible so that they're well hydrated. That helps with the brain function as well. Then maybe after that, before, I don't know, they have a nap or something like that, let us take them to the toilet first. It may take a while for them to remember how to pee or something for some of the advanced cases, but let us put that as a habit. Maybe shower time, I don't know when their routines are, you put that in place, regular toileting. Before going to bed, I'd recommend asking people to go to the toilet, because if we have aircon and things like that, we tend to want to pee in cold environments. So then we don't want them to, it's the same with us. We may wet the bed if it's too cold, our bladder is too full. So then you go to the toilet before, and then after you wake up, you go to the toilet first thing. Because like you said, we don't have to wait until people say they want these things. Like I don't have to say, but for Brunei must have breakfast, lunch and dinner. We don't have to ask. It's automatic. Same with toileting as well. Sometimes sun help as well. So I know a story of a person who they scold the family members who keeps forgetting to flush the toilet. Actually, they forget to flush the toilet. And then you can't argue as well. You can't say, it's you are the one who didn't flush. It's like, no, I flushed the toilet. Then it's going round and round in circles. So maybe you should do a group activity and say, let's put a sign so that people remember, whoever it is that forgets. Then you put a sign there. Then if they forget, there's a sign. Toilet, sometimes if they're independent walking, they need a sign there to say, this is the toilet. The toilet sign outside the toilet is useful, especially for big houses. For example, because if they're lost, they don't want to ask for help, then they won't have the sensation as well. So you have to avoid the bladder being too full. I know some people, the bladder so full for so long, we put in a catheter, 4 liters comes out. Their bladder is already a bit too loose, and it takes a while before the tone comes back. So we have to try and avoid that sort of thing. Constipation tends to block the urinary tract as well. And so you have to try and avoid constipation. Otherwise, they just need a lot more volume before push through the poo. So bowels and bladder always go together. Oh, sorry, Mai, you had some other feedback?
No. Just wanted to add on that it's not wrong, or we keep on like talking to them, because as I said, sometimes dorang akan merespon tadi balik. That's why in the morning itu baru bercakap macam biasa saja. Ia menjawab, Indah menjawab sudah. Kadang-kadang ditanya bukan pasal makan saja. Kan ke toilet kita, Bo. Kan ke toilet kita, Mak. Kan ke toilet kita, Nek. Kan berkamih kita, kan tu indah salah kan, kadang-kadang ada yang menjawab. And then selepas kita bawa ke toilet tu, bila kita tanya lagi lepas sejam, kita tanya, ia akan menjawab, oh kan ke toilet saja pulang tu. That's why di sini kita ni boleh melihat pattern durang tu jua. Sama jua pertanyaan tadi, lapar kita, akan makan kita. Ia akan continue bercakap balik-balik tu jua, repetitif. Lapar kunya, alung ku makan. Lepas setengah jam ditanya, sama je tu nya, lapar kunya. This thing will happen lah. Kalau ada orang yang ada dementia, memang macam mana ni lah. Tapi kita ni again, berbalik arah tani mesti sabar. And try to lihat patternnya tu lah. Untuk tani lebih orang mudah memahami ke dia. Because ada masa-masanya, out of the blue, ia akan boleh bercakap macam biasa. Tapi split second saja. Okay? Tak aja pelang kata ni tu. Benar ke ni? Bercakap ke dia? And then, Toto, dia tu bercakap. Yang tanya, pati dia mana? But it happen This is real ni orang And then, dalam pada tu jua, bila habis kita macam try to communicate sama ke dia macam biasa. Bercakap macam ke dia tu, try to terangkan macam, hari ni. Kan ia masih boleh mendengar. Ia boleh masih mengambil habis kita punya information tu. Ia masih boleh faham, nganya Indah dapat merespon. Ingat tu. Kata ni jangan lupa, manito apa ni? Yang dah mendengar, yang dah ada apa-apa ni. So kalau bis kita bercerita, mengumpat ke pasal sianu, jangan. Jangan dapannya, dah bagus tu. Apalagi kalau boleh menyinggung perasaannya. So habis kita mesti, itulah berfikirlah dulu sebelum apa-apa ni. And orang always remember that person is still the real person yang sebelum ni yang boleh masih bercakap waktu sebelum ada dementia patulah. And then kalau kata ni mesti reality check atau orang orientation yang sebenar tu tadi mesti lihatkan arahnya. Macam for example hari ni hari Khamis ni buah je. Sekarang tadi bertahlil ni, sekarang malam. Kita ni saja. Macam tu kah? Okay, ni siang masih ni siang. Itulah tapi again, dia perlu ketanikan teriak-teriak lah beritahu. And then bercakap pun orang tonasi tadi tu pun dia payahkan orang tinggi. Maybe kalau ya kurang pendengaran pun dia payah ketanikan meneriaki, mungkin rapati. But then hati-hati bila some people yang ada demensia tu, bila ketani merapati, bila kan start eye contact tu, ada yang terus menampar tu. Ada yang terus dah dapat tu. Pasal baginya, ia kekajutan kali apa yang dia tadi tahu. Ia boleh react automatically sama ada tumbuknya, tamparnya kah. Itu ke tadi, Indah tahulah siapa mengalami itu, kesianlah And then, durang ni, bila durang yang boleh bercakap itu, tadi mesti bagi validate lah ke dia. Ada pengesahan itu And then, kalau boleh, yang orang Indah lagi berapa kan communicate sama ke tani itu, mungkin tani boleh communicate sama ke dia secara non-verbal, pakai orang cerita-cerita lama. Orang kenangan-kenangan yang lama. Lihatkan gambar kah. Bercerita si kata ni. Orang cakap, pala kelinya ke dia ni yang bercakap seorang diri. Indah. Sebenarnya tadi bercerita sama ke dia. Orang yang dengan kata ni bercerita tu, ia akan masih mendengar. Wah, bandar dalam hatinya ia akan cakap, wah, gambarku dulu lawa kau tu dulunya. Ni handsome-nya. Lawa kau tu pretty-nya. Whatever lah Tapi ketani, that's how ketani communicate sama durang tu juga. Dengan orang kenangannya lama. And then tadi boleh bercakap, time bapa dulu jadi guru. Bapa dulu cuma ni STD. Sama juga. Kalau ia orang musician ke apa. STD ni je bapa ni main gitar ke apa, menyanyi. Lawan ni suaranya. Manang nombor 1. Those kind of things lah. Yang boleh orang menyenangkan hatinya. Jangan menyusahkan hatinya lah. I think this is regardless to whether orang tu ada dementia atau tidak, orang tua-tua tadi ni jangan tadi susahkan dengan perkara-perkara atau cerita-cerita yang negatif lah atau yang boleh menaikkan uri atau susah hati arah durang Because nalurinya orang tua-tua ni akan berbalik semula macam kanak-kanak. Okay. 1. 2, urinya ni orang tinggi. It doesn't mean orang tua-tua ni ada dementia kalau nya balik-balik bertanya, balik sudah siano tu. Tapi kalau very repetitive in a short time atau maybe atau boleh dibawalah to the nearest clinic lah, ditanyakan untuk to get further diagnosed. Kalau indah, it's normal. Orang tua-tua kan orang kadang-kadang ia sekadar orang bibiran orang kata ni bercakap si cuma tu. Okay, any other things? I think sebenarnya komunikasi ni banyak lagi. So if anyone yang di luar sana, or you can share with the other friends or colleague or family, you can request a workshop atau latihan sama kami to get to know more and understand more pasal dementia ni. InsyaAllah we are willingly to help nanti and assist you all in the future. Maybe we don't have much time je, Dr. Teo, and then we try to answer the best possible yang habis kita tanya tu, and then from there we go lah.
I have something to add from your, I think you're talking about reminiscence and
Yeah.
trying to choose what is useful, because Alzheimer's, usually their short-term memory is affected first, their long-term memory is affected last. And so when you say you want to remind them of previous experiences, what happens when you're younger, I know like when I train overseas, the previous military, they served in the World War. We're like, oh yeah, thank you so much for serving us, our country. That sort of thing our nurses told them, because where I trained in New Zealand, they're very proud that they have contributed to the country. So those sort of things they still remember. So I would choose those things to focus and talk on. Then for those with their limitations, you try not to dwell on it. So for example, you don't say, remember what happened just now, when clearly short-term memory is an issue. So you don't go, oh, why didn't you remember this? That's not something which you want to talk about. And then I like the point, Ma, you made about worrying, because all of us in our lives have things which stress us. I'm sure there's other things, each of our own families, there's disagreements, etc., etc. This is not the time to bring them into it, because they can tell when we're stressed as well. And so giving this like vibe, they can actually sense it in my experience. So if we're stressed, they will know, and then they're a bit more quieter. Just like, you know, when we're in school, teachers angry, that's not the time to be naughty or talking, right? We just get this vibe, and then it's like, ooh, now is not the time to say anything if like you come in and then giving off this angry vibe. And then what I think we should do is try to focus on positive. So I remember there was a therapist who was saying like, if they want to go to the toilet to have a shower, then if you make it like a chore, they will sort of resist. So I remember there was a therapist, oh, it's time to go out, time for your spa, let us focus on positive things. Rather than, oh no, it's bath time again, you always do this, you don't want to have a shower or something like that. Then you have this angst and you have this hesitation already. And then I go back to the toilet question, because I think we tend to overcomplicate things, when actually we just need to try and make the experiences as nice as possible. So I remember we had an old gentleman in our wards, and he has constipation, which is quite common with older people. Then they're like, what happened? This person hasn't pooped for days. And then when I talk to him, he's like, I just don't feel like it. And then when I go to the toilet, oh my God, it's smelly. And then the toilet bowl dirty. None of us, it's nothing to do about dementia. None of us would want to go there to poo, for example. Then the wife, I noticed, like in between, like while I said, just leave him in the toilet for a while, let him do his business. Then she'll go, Sudah, Brianne, Sudah. I'm like, oh my God, he needs to be relaxed. You don't do that. Otherwise, it's not going to happen. Just I think these activities are sort of normal. We just complicate it. So I think the gist of it is just try to make it a part of the normal part of their life. Try to make it as pleasurable as possible. And this is the time to try and, enjoy the time with them. So reminiscence is good. For example, you can share back the memories you had. Last time when we were younger, this is what we used to do. Do you remember that, for example? If they like to sing, they like certain music, those would be suitable forms of communicating with them as well. And then you mentioned my touch. That is also quite useful to show that we're still there. Even if they can't see, they can't sense us, then we physically touch them. Massage is nice to some people. Some people are like, ooh, ticklish, they don't like it. So you choose what they like. You don't have to force these things. But knowing what they like certainly is quite helpful as well.
Yeah.
Mm. hopefully that helps and that's useful tips. Yeah. I think there
Yeah.
was a question.
The one from last week.
Yeah, I have.
Shafika has the question.
Yeah, I have few
Yeah.
questions from last week. This one is from Rauda. She said that what if people with dementia do not want to take a shower and keep insisting that they take their shower every day? Forcing them to do it will not do them any good. But any advice? Adding on, Susanna also said that her mom will be showered, but she gets upset when her hair gets washed. So, can any Dr. T or Miss Mai answer?
I think you've got more experience with this, Mai. You want to start?
Okay, what if the people with dementia do not want to take a shower and keep insisting that they take their shower every day? Okay, I think pandai tabis kita berkelakar lah. Kind of lah. Okay, I mean this is all about approach ketani ya. Approach ketani kepada I think best to say orang tua-tua lah saja rather than people with dementia lah. Because approach ni more or less sama actually, okay. Macam kalau sekiranya time untuk mandi tiba, mari tejak mandi je, kan tadi kan berjalan, action lah. Paksa kita ni orang bukan juga berkelakar tapi menyenangkan hatinya. Kan shopping kita ni pak, mak, lakas tah. Bersih-bersih lu kita ni je, bau-bau harum apa. And then kalau mandi tu pun janganlah nu sajok-sajok diancit-ancit apa, dah pelan-pelan kan. Sayangi kan orang tua ni, ya tangannya tu dengan kita ni. So meaning that kalau nya Indah mau, try to pujuk saja. Mungkin kalau masih juga Indah mau dipujuk, mungkin kita ni bersihkan saja mana yang perlu dilap-lap ni orang. Kalau time kanak-kanak sakit macam tu kan tadi buat, dia jangan tadi paksa mandi ke dia. Macam itulah ha. And then orang yang penting kita ni tetap jagakan kebersihannya. Kalau ia anda mampu menjaga tani yang masih orang normal lah ni, masih sihat lah ni, tani boleh membantu menjaga kesihatannya juga dengan kebersihannya juga sekali. And then yang sambungannya tu apa, adding to the previous question, my mom will be showered but she gets upset when her okay, rambutnya ni ah. Okay, macam kanak-kanak je ni ah. Dia mau menangis kriak-kriak ni kalau rambut tu, tapi orang tu mungkin dah dia menangis lah, tapi marah. Nyamal kali ya. Pandai-pandai teh juga lagi memujuk macam ada je bisa lawa rambut kita ni bo ane mandikan saja mesti dicuci je sekarang apa ni orang ia berminyak ia kotor ane kan di bawah sembayang lagi kan ambil wudu mesti tadi bersihkan pujuk cara baik lah ha jangan kan marah-marah kan meneriaki kah kan menangking kah ataupun kan memaksa tu sama sekali janganlah. Okay, that is not good lah kalau tadi maksa. Kalaupun kita ni insistkan menyuruh ke dia buat barang itu, we try to find another way. We tweak it. We try to find another way how to approach ke dia lagi. Kalau tidak, biarkan dulu, tani buat barang lain dulu. Kalau dia bah, mari kita memasak dulu aja. Kalau dia suka, mari kita memasak dulu aja. Apaan kita masak je. So, jangan ni memasak. Jangan dibiarkan ah. Jangan dibiarkan sama sekali. So, apakan dimasak? Kan orang ada dementia, again, remember, dorang boleh ingat, dorang boleh lupa sedikit, dorang boleh lupa sama sekali. Macam Stone Cold saya berdiri sana megang belanganya. Kata ni mesti mengguide lah. And then jangan menggaragas lah barang ni, mesti pelan-pelan juga. I think in between that we have to nyorang bercakap lah. Orang tu suka bercerita, bercakap kan, bercerita. They like to tell a story. Regardless they have dementia or not, orang tu andang suka bercerita. So kata ni layan. Okay, kerajaan ni jadi tukang layan. A good listener and layan. And that's why we validate say bukan it's not all about us, it's about them. Okay, remember that it's not about us, it's about them. Okay. Jangan tuju kata ni kan sibuk-sibuk bercerita pasal kata ni je in the penting tu. Kecuali kalau dia bertanya kata ni baru dia bercerita. Atau kalau ada kesempatan sedikit, then tani boleh menyampuklah sedikit cerita-cerita tu. Kalau indah jangan bagi orang peluang untuknya express dirinya tu, mengekspresikan dirinya, emosinya. Kadang kalau Tanisha biarkan suatu, ia akan sendirinya bercerita tu. Ndaku sukanya anu tu tadinya kau menyucikan rambut kau tu yang nyaman baunya nya sekiranya. Okay? Di sana tanya the point. So tukar bah. Nanti balikan baru mak shampoo baru macam itulah. Those kind of things lah. Okay.
I think for it's a bit difficult. I can't understand also, but I'm the only guy here in this panel. But some girls they don't like washing every day, do they? Because it's such a hassle. But then they like going to the spa and things like that to have their hair done. So I don't know how to balance in between. But I think, again, you have to try and make it a routine for them so that it's a habit. The first time will be a struggle, but once it's a habit already, it's like, oh, I've woken up, it's time for a shower, for example, if that is the routine you want to put in place. The second thing that I have to suggest is positive reinforcement. Make sure that it's a nice experience for them. If you're already at angst, you're like, oh, I don't have time, I only have 10 minutes. They're like, oh, every time I go for a shower, I associate it with you being angry. So I don't want that in case I'm the one making you angry, sort of thing. So I think the way in which we communicate this activity is also quite important. Sometimes we actually don't give them choices if it's not a choice for them to make. So for example, what you can do is you can say, it's time for a shower now. I let you choose. Is it this baju or this baju? Which one you want after your shower? So they don't have a choice in flight lah, that they're actually going to have a shower, but you're giving them a choice. Which shampoo you want to use today? Oh, you like this one, right? If there's a pause, you don't dwell on making them make difficult choices. Then you go, but you usually like this one. We'll go for this one, and then we'll take you there. Sometimes it's because it's such a hassle, because they're a bit weaker anyway. It's going to be irritating to go there to the bathroom where it's a bit further away. So I think you still have to troubleshoot things. But if they are a bit against showers, for example, and it's something which just had to be done, I wouldn't say, do you feel like having a shower now? And if they say no, you're stuck, right? So it's just time for a shower. You choose your clothes. I'll let you choose this one. Maybe if you're unsure what is their routine, you let them choose what time it is that they like to choose. But it also depends on how they for them. If they already have a routine, for example, I know some people, they don't shower every day. Then when they're older, you can't expect them to get into this new routine. Some people shower every 2 to 3 days. I know overseas, because it's cold, some of my friends, they shower, I think, once a week like that. It's probably okay. So you have to see what the person is like when they're younger as well. Then if they don't like their head being touched, some people don't like that, then I'm not really sure how you are going to overcome that previous already apprehension. So you just have to individualize it, I think, and then try to make it into routine, try to make it into something nice. Is my only thought of overcoming this.
Is there any more question? Ada lagi?
One question, yes. What advice will you give to our youth to help decrease the risk of dementia among their parents?
This one is to do with prevention of dementia. This is actually a very important concept that we're trying to work on in terms of our action plan for healthy aging for Brunei. So I'm in a working group with our Health Promotion Center in Ministry of Health, where we say that how to prevent dementia, actually we don't worry about it at diagnosis. We actually have to think about it very early on in life, or actually before a baby is born. Already there are some things we need to do. For example, if the mother has diabetes, then the baby, high rate of getting these problems, developmental disability and dementia at an earlier age. So actually, if we want to think about preventing dementia, even before baby is born, we already need to put interventions in place. Then when they are like kids, we want to make sure they're well-nourished, they're well-educated, because if they're young, they haven't got enough food. I know there's some poverty in that kids are a bit malnourished, very small group in Brunei. Then those ones won't do so well. They're high risk of getting dementia because we aren't giving them enough things for the brain to develop. So all these kids who don't go to school, a bit disappointing because at a later stage they might have a higher risk of getting dementia. Education, pushing people to develop their brain as much as possible is quite important. Then when we're in Brunei, we're very lucky. Education is very heavily subsidized, almost free. And so we need to make the most of this because it pays back in terms of longer term for reducing risk of dementia. So in terms of our older family members, we need to try and maintain their brain activity as well. So physical activity, mental stimulation, and social interaction are quite important to try and maintain the brain function at old age. So when our family members, the ones who are retired, they don't do anything, they just sit there in front of the TV, that's actually not good for them. Unfortunately, now is COVID, but I would recommend they go out to do some exercise. Traveling is good, learning new experiences, like learning new hobbies, joining groups, for example, would be useful. And so I think like when people retire, there is a course of what new skills you can get is what I was told. I don't know. But those things, if they pursue and carry on with those, that is quite useful. One of the things which is good for them to learn is the apps, using different apps, computer. It's a bit difficult for them, but that really stimulates their brain. I think we don't involve our older family members as much, but having conversations with them, discussions, trying to see how else they can participate in these healthy activities to reduce risk of dementia is quite useful. So you can ask them to take them out, for example, for walks. Now with COVID, you have to try and figure out what physical activity you can do. Family sort of activities are useful. Doing social interactions difficult with COVID, but maybe you should be introducing them to some of these apps. I know a lot of people like FaceTime, for example, and then now they're like, oh, I miss my choo-choo. Then you can use this app. So we're doing phone or video conversations with extended family, or we try to in the weekends, because it really triggers their memory, and they're like, oh yes, I can see so and so. Let's think what to talk to them about, those sort of things. And then you can involve them in hobbies, because I know some people when they retire, they decide to do group activities. We'll have a barbecue or something. Now we're all retired, for example, or we have to learn how to use a certain app, but my family members will benefit from this. That's useful. Or now there's homeschooling. Maybe their grandparents can also help because it would be learning for them, for example. Lots of opportunities actually for the younger people to get involved. And most important is seeking early diagnosis and treatment. So if you think they are starting to be a bit slower, and it's something which hopefully we can find something to reverse, then they should see a doctor. Actually, above 40, every year they should see a doctor to check blood pressure, cholesterol, diabetes, even if there's no issues. I think raising awareness is important. The other thing which our youth have been quite good. Like you guys have been quite good at promoting information about dementia. So that's also quite useful. So there's quite a lot that you can do actually. Risk reduction, raising awareness, and I think everyone has a role to play in physical activity, mental stimulation, social interaction. Yeah, hopefully that answers it.
Can I ask Miss Mai?
Yes.
At what age did your auntie get dementia? May I know at what age? Is
I
there any
think
specific age?
we're in her 70s. In her 70s lah. Yeah. But then it's not tarus-tarus dementia lah ha. Yang hanya macam damam saja apa, and then kena bawa ke hospital, and then I think she got a jab or something, makan ubat. I don't know, maybe ada gangguan sikit arah fungsi otaknya tu, then dari sana tah develop lah. Bila kena bawa balik tu totally yang dah dapat lagi orang berjalan apa, she just want to sit arah dia punya wheelchair saja. And then at one point orang ya bedridden sajalah. But then again my aunt yang menjaga tu pun orang really itulah orang barang-barang menjaga. They do it like what the nurse will do, like certain time tu orang pusingkan, and then certain time pusingkan. So kalau you akan melimpang one side tu is not good ah. Because orang pun melihat orang macam kanak-kanak berbadas apa. But then ia akan agitating jo sama fidgeting jo barang-barang yang ada di sekelilingnya tu. So jangan simpan barang yang bagus-bagus lah. Ia akan mencabut-cabut, ia akan mencari-cari. Okay, regardless of apa-apa, ia akan cuba sedaya upaya memegang-megang, menguis-nguis ke apa, itu normal. Right, Dr. Teo? Right. I think maybe I can add on to yang tadinya Dr. Teo yang how orang the youth masa ni sama ia punya grandparents ke apa. You know your grandparents, some of them ada yang berjawatan and ada yang ada skill durang tu, orang steady kan, orang katalah yang pandai membuat perahu tah. Okay? Maybe the youth sekarang ni more orang high tech apa, durang boleh belajar sedikit sebanyak daripada the grandparents tu. Maybe boleh belajar bertukang ke apa as part of hobby ke apa. At least orang there's some intergeneration tu ada activity tu bah. And then apa orang ilmu yang ia ada dulu tu ia pun happy, ia dapat arah cucuku, ku ajar tu cucuku tu. So ia pun happy, ia pun bekerja keras juga untuk kan membantu cucunya ni untuk memahami how to membuat barangan ni apa. And then indah semestinya juga apa yang ia, kalau ia apa yang ia pandai tu lagi bagus lah. Same goes to macam kalau nininya tu seorang guru mathematics lah. So kalau cucunya kan mau anda pandai mathematics satu, boleh belajar dari nininya tu bah. Kan di sana ada interaction and then nini, it will stimulate nininya punya atu juga kan, pemikiran atu juga. Kalau dulu batas sudah berpencen, dah banyak menggunakan orang berfikir cuma tu, hanya kan berkabun saja maybe or berjogging sih cuma tu. Tapi bila sudah cucunya ni, nek ajar kunya maths ni, aku faham dia apa. Di sana interaction tu, nininya pun start berfikiran ni, cuma ni tu lain ni. So ia pun look forward untuk berjumpa cucunya ni every day tu kadang aku kan mengajar yang ni pelangnya. Kalau ni and then next will be ni. So ia pun orang apa jadi aktif balik. Kan because ada kalau orang yang senior citizen tadi ni once ia sudah berpencen tu ada yang tercari-cari, yang biasa aktif tu ia akan tercari-cari aktiviti apa yang patut dibuatnya. That's why ada yang masuk berpersatuan, ada yang orang membantu membuka persatuannya sendiri. Dah tahulah sama-sama dorang warga emas kan buat aktiviti among them. I know yang warga emas ni yang dah berapa ni kan bergrup sama orang muda-muda pa ni dah berapa, kecuali kalau sama cucunya kalau kan membawa, tapi kan bergrup berpersatuan indahlah. Because they still have orang veto tu dorang punya voice satu lakat lah. So it's a bit anulah sikit orang sensitif sikit lah di sana tu. But whatever it is, diorang as what we Dementia Brunei dengan slogannya selalu sayangi orang muda, hormati orang tua. So atu ingat-ingat tabis kita. Okay, regardless orang muda ke orang tua, we still gonna hormati and sayangi sama-sama sendirilah.
Actually, Mai, you pointed out something quite important. Like you said, there's our older relative who knows how to do perahu. Actually, we always say last time they make things better. Now when they make it again, it's just not as good. So like my grandma apparently, well, she's passed away now. Apparently she knows how to use the different flowers for herbs and to heal different things. And then I asked my parents, so all these flowers, because my dad will be like, oh, that one is the one which is good for wounds, for example. I said, oh, then tell me a bit more. It's like, no. It's grandma who knew all this. And then the knowledge is gone lah, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So actually, we should view our older people as knowledge assets, knowledge bank. And so if we can access those, that would be quite useful. Yeah, so I think that's a very important point. Yeah, older people are assets.
Yeah.
Any more questions?
There's a question here which asks about physical therapy and how often should patients go for physiotherapy, any set frequencies. Actually, this Sunday, Emily Ong is going to be having a conversation with us. I think it's at 10 this Sunday. And so what happens is at 10. And so what happens is Emily is a young person with dementia, and she is pushing for rehabilitation. Rehabilitation as in they have difficulty in performing certain functions. So for her, she found cooking, for example, quite difficult. So rehabilitation is a way to overcome these limitations to try and maintain your activities of daily living. So she apparently has drafted a self-help toolkit for other people with dementia. She is more thinking about the more able, younger onset dementia. And then she is pushing for neurorehabilitation, and she gave a talk. So it's quite impressive, a person with dementia giving a talk and teaching healthcare professionals about the importance of rehabilitation in dementia. So probably because of the limitations of time, probably we will ask her that question because she's actually the expert and she's going to talk about it actually. Yeah. And I want to see what her self-help kit is because I think she said it's something which is quite useful for caregivers as well as people with dementia. So I said, can we have it in Brunei as well? And then she said, oh, we will share a bit more information at a later stage. Yeah, so join us
Anybody
then.
can join? Anybody can join
Yeah,
the session?
Yeah, I think it's through IG Live again on our association IG, working through the final arrangement.
So anybody who are interested to join live for Sunday, so
Yeah.
you're welcome to join.
Out, I think, almost for. Are there any other questions? Otherwise, we should probably wrap up.
Yeah.
No? Okay. Okay, thank you to Dr. Teo and Ms. Maizatul for today, and thank you for the people who's joining us right now. And more info can be found on our Instagram, so check it out. I'm sorry. And if you have any questions, feel free to DM us. And there will be another online discussion with different topic next week, so stay tuned and stick around because we'll be doing a giveaway for those who join our online session in the following week. I think that's all. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Nice catching up.
Thanks. Stay
Goodbye.
safe. Stay safe, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.